Hello, hello. Welcome to K.I.S.S Recovery. This is Bridge. I'm going to be your host tonight. Now, I want to avoid what happened last week, so I actually have my phone in front of me, and I'm going to go ahead and pull things up to make sure we are live. While I do that, guest, do you want to introduce yourself?
Well, sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Bob. I am an alcoholic and an addict and all those fun things. And I have been sober since July 20th of 2018. So coming up almost 3.5 years. Actually, in a couple of days, it'll be exactly 3.5 years.
Fantastic. And do you want to go ahead and share? First of all, I love that you said yes, because you just say but yes. And secondly, I love the topic. I like to ask my guests that come on, like, is there anything you want to talk about? Is there any path you want to focus on? So why don't you go ahead and talk a little about the topic that you want to address?
Sure. So tonight you had asked me to come and hang out with you and chat with you and I'd say some of your viewers, hi viewers out there. And you asked me what I'd like to talk about. And, something that's really near and dear to my heart is sponsorship. Sponsorship is something that I didn't know that I was searching for sponsorship until it was right in front of me. Like, until I went to a meeting and that was the topic. And that moment was the moment that I was like, oh, you know what's missing? Sponsorship. And so that to me, it was like one of those higher power moments that it was like speaking to me like, hey, this is the next step for you here. And so
yeah, keep talking.
Okay, so sponsorship, again, near and dear to my heart. It's something that I had been going to a lot of different 12-step meetings, and I'd walk into a meeting and I would say, what do you guys do to stay sober? And they'd say, oh, you got to come to meetings. And I'd say, oh, okay, I can come to meetings. And so I'd go to meetings and I'd do meetings for about 30 days and then I'd relapse. Mm-hmm. And it was really tough. And I'd get myself back into those meetings and I would say, okay, I was going to meetings, but that didn't keep me sober. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, what else do I have to do, mm-hmm. right? I was one of those very curious people, like, just tell me what I need to do and I'll do it, and they say, okay, well, now you have to be of service, so why don't you come in and make the coffee? Okay, so I'm going to meetings, I'm making coffee, and 60 days later, I'm back using again. And I didn't really understand what was going on. I said, come on, guys, I'm doing what you're saying.
What you're telling me.
Right, and I didn't quite understand why that kept happening. And so I'd come back and I'd say, okay, well, now what do I have to do? Oh, well, you should present a topic or, maybe stack the chairs afterwards at a meeting. And so I'd come to meetings and I'd get a service position. In fact, I was chairing a meeting for a while. I was making the coffee. I was locking up afterwards after we cleaned everything up. And 90 days later, I'd relapse. Mm-hmm. And I came back in and I said, I don't understand what's happening here. I'm doing everything that you're saying. And that night, when I came back in, there was a speaker that had come to our meeting that was invited. And this speaker, he spoke, and the entire topic was on sponsorship. Okay. And it was like right in my face, It was. This is where my higher power is leading me. This is the next step in your journey. So now that you're comfortable with coming to meetings and now that you're comfortable with cleaning up and making the coffee and doing service work, now the next step, And I had to go through that, I think, in order for me to be able to really grasp all of the pillars of recovery.
And let's talk about that. So this, hello listeners, I see Mahana's on, welcome. So anyone listening could be just starting out in recovery, mm-hmm. could have been in recovery for a while, or could be just allies of recovery or family members of people in recovery. So just think that let's just back it up. We're doing the basics, the recovery, 101. What is sponsorship? What does it mean to sponsor someone? What does that mean?
So for me, in a general sense, for me, sponsorship is a guide. right? It's somebody who has been through a program that can help you through a program. And for me, I relate it to being in school, right? When you learn your ABCs, you don't know what the ABCs are until someone shows you what the ABCs are. And people do it in various different ways, right? Some people write it on the board. Other people put it in a book for you, and other people create a song, right? A, B, C, D, right? And so you can have something to relate to, right? And for me, that's what it's all about. If you want to talk about basics, it's showing me what you did so that I can find the same relief and, ultimately, hopefully the same success that you found in your recovery. And so I can use that as a starting point for me to try to find some of that relief, try to find some hope again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and for me, my experience, so, I had lots of years of recurrences and reuses, and I did all the newcomers service work, I guess you would call it. I did those things too, came early and made sure that everything was set up, or I stayed later, I stayed and did fellowship and talked with people, well, that took a while too, but I never felt qualified to be a sponsor, and I never felt good enough, and I thought, I know the steps, but only, what do I really know? I don't want to feel responsible for guiding someone. And what if I mess up? What if I don't, what if I fail? So in fear, I did not raise my hand to be a temporary or permanent sponsor because I didn't feel like I was good enough, or I didn't feel like I was qualified. And it took stepping up as a chair to lead me, because my sponsor encouraged that. Shout out to Marcia. I have to give her a shout out, because because of her, I just remember that feeling of, wow, she really believes in me. Like, I didn't even have that much solo time. I probably had, after that last reuse, I had 3 months when she asked me, and she was wise, and she was smart, and she made it like, oh, I need someone to step in for me, I need to take a break, it's like, help me kind of thing. I didn't, see back then that she's just very wise, and she knew that, it might be a good experience for me. And so, stepping in at that chair, and then we always ask the question at the beginning of our meetings, if anyone's willing to sponsor, please raise your hand. Well, I felt as the chair, I better at least raise my hand. So when my first person came up to me and said, hey, I was wondering if you would sponsor me. My heart drops, and I was just so touched. I'm like, really? And then I'm like, oh shit, I better get up on my stuff. But it's like that service step and taking it to that level of sponsoring is key. And I'll tell you what, I just jumped in it. I was probably the less qualified person you could imagine, because I felt like, I had so many reoccurrences. But honestly, that's how I really, really grasped the steps. That's how I really found this program to work for me, is because now I'm living and going through these steps with my sponsees, and I love working with sponsees because I'm an open-minded sponsor. I like to hear what they have to say and what they're learning and how they're growing, because I take away with that too. I learn and grow with them every time I go through it. Yeah,
absolutely. My experience was different. I had a by the book sponsor, right? And it was very challenging for me.
Will you explain that more? What you mean?
Yeah. So my sponsor was he called it himself Real AA, where he called other ways of doing it watered down a little bit.
Okay.
And he was very, very strict on what the book said, and this is how we do it. And he was very hard on me. In fact, I remember the night that I asked him to be my sponsor, I went home and I relapsed that night. Because, again, to continue a little bit of my story, I said, okay, now I got a sponsor. I did what you guys told me to do, and you said get a sponsor, so I got a sponsor. And then I went and relapsed, and I came back and I said, why did I relapse? And they said, well, you didn't do the work, and so what I needed, and I didn't realize that I needed this, and a lot of people don't need this. A lot of people might need a sponsor that's more like yourself. But for me, I didn't really realize that I needed a sponsor who was kind of like, you either do this or you don't, right? Like, don't waste my time. And I relapsed one more time, and that was the ultimatum that I got, was either you do this program and you put it 100% first thing in your life, or don't waste my effing time. And he said I had 48 hours to get back to him, and then he hung up on me. And so that was one extreme, right? And that was
Very
my
extreme.
right.
Oh, my goodness.
That was my experience. You would think that would make me turn around and go back out, right? But for me, that's when I chose recovery. That is when I chose that this is what I need to do to save my life at that time. So part of me needed that, right? I've sponsored guys since then, and it's funny that you mentioned that, that the hesitancy of raising your hand in that meeting. I was very hesitant too, and my sponsor's like, now you're going to raise your hand, you're ready. And I was 6 months sober at the time, right? And I raised my hand, and after the second meeting of raising my hand, I had a guy walk up to me and say, would you sponsor me? And he is still sober today, and we still work together 3 years later. And that was my first experience, is to have I'd call it a win, right? And our sponsees, when we, because we do count how many people are still, hanging around with us, and how many people do go back out. And, I've had many that have gone back out on me. I have. But to me, I can still be there. I'm still in touch with them.
Right, absolutely.
We're still friends on Facebook. We can still say, hi, how are you doing? They might come at me with some of their, stuff that they're doing, but I can say, how can I help you?
Yeah.
I really can't give you any money, but I can give you some emotional support,
Finances, yes. And support,
Support.
Like you said, I'm the same way. Yes, I actually have a list that I keep, because even if I get fired, I've been fired a couple times. Some directly, and some just, I found out through the grapevine they just got a new sponsor. But I don't care if they fire me, because for me, I'm their sponsor for life, in a sense of, because for me, 17 years, and my sponsor, she's known me for now 9 years, but for 7 years, so I did the sponsor shuffle. She's my sponsor number 4, my forever sponsor, final and forever. And the one right before her, she had never had a reuse. And so when I had the recurrence the second time, she pulled me aside, and she said, I'm seeing the vision right now, I'm getting emotional. She said, Bridge, I can't do this. I can't, it's not you, but I feel like because I've never had a reuse, I think you'd be better with someone else. And I totally get where she's coming from now, but in that dark place where I was at, that was a rejection I wasn't ready for. Because at that moment I felt like my own people fucking rejected me, and it crushed me. It crushed my soul. And I went back out. I almost didn't make it back in the rooms. It was not her fault. That was my own thing. But I went back to that particular meeting where I knew Marcy was at, because she's been just with me through those ups and downs. She's never judged me. I don't know why I never asked her to sponsor me. She's always chaired that meeting. She chaired that meeting for like 6 years. Women's Way, shout out. And I sat in the back of the rooms. I got my ass back to the rooms, so that's something. And then after the meeting, she's like, Bridge, come here. What are you doing? Come here. And I wasn't even going to say anything. My thing was just, when I felt that shitty, I would just go to the meeting and I would go back home, And she pulled me aside after the meeting, and she said, can I give you a hug? Can you give me a hug? And I freaking needed that hug. And I felt all that wall that I had built up just flush away.
Yeah.
And she said, tell me what happened. And I told her that my sponsor had dropped me, and I just felt like I was about to give up. Like, I just felt like this isn't working for me. I'm not finding what I need, and I'm just that messed up. And she said, well, are you seeking a sponsor? I'm like, are you saying, like, window? I was like, who would you sponsor me? But she's like, absolutely, I would love to. I'm like, but Marcy, like, I'm a chronic reuser. Like, I don't know if I don't know if I can stay sober. But the fact that she said, I don't care. I love you. I believe in you. And absolutely, I would love to be your sponsor. Like, that planted that fucking seed. Sorry. I
Yeah.
get so excited. That planted that seed that I needed, that someone would love me unconditionally and 100% support me. And, like, just hearing that, it gave me inspiration to want to be a better person.
Right.
So,
And I I can relate in the sense that I was a year and a half sober, and my sponsor called me and said, "Hey, I just want to let you know that I'm back out drinking again."
oh, wow.
And
Okay.
he said, "I don't think that it would be wise for me to sponsor you anymore." And I was like, "Well, yeah, I agree. I agree with that." And as devastating as that was, I remember that night I went to a meeting here in Fridley Alano, and I didn't know what to do. I was beside myself, right? I just could relate. But this was me staying sober, and now the guy who had given me all of his wisdom and that I looked up to, now he wasn't following the things that he was teaching, that he had taught to me. I felt abandoned. We work through a lot of that stuff, right? In doing a 12-step program or any recovery program, I find that working through some of that old shit that you've gone
Yes.
through happens no matter what methodology that you
Yes.
use, right?
Yes.
And so all of a sudden, here comes all of those feelings again. I've been abandoned. Who's gonna care for me? I'm out blowing in the wind, and I'm afraid that I'm gonna relapse. And so, interestingly enough, though, my sponsor sponsored a lot of other guys in the program, and so I knew all my sponsor brothers,
Oh, God.
right?
Yes,
And
the
so
family.
it was a family thing, and this was right at the beginning of COVID, right when we went into lockdown.
goodness.
I didn't have a sponsor when we went into lockdown.
Okay,
I
well.
thought, oh, I can do this, right? It's 2 weeks to stop the spread, everybody. And that's what they told us when they sent us home
was
and,
then.
and locked us down. Right, that was then. We know a lot more now about it. And about 6 weeks into COVID, I realized I can't do this. I started feeling restless, irritable, discontent, and things were starting to get pretty dark. And you're thinking about all of the circumstances, right? You've got the lockdown, the uncertainty, the scariness. Who tells?
Isolation.
Yeah.
Forced quarantine is like isolation.
Right. And I told myself that I was going to come to a meeting and find a sponsor, and now I couldn't.
Right.
And so I thought that the world was against me, and I was destined to go back and relapse, right? To go back and go out there and lose all the time. And it's not about the time, it's about the progress. But, lose all of that because of COVID and because my sponsor decided to abandon me, right? I had I was in a very dark place. I was in a very dark place. And my original sponsor had mentioned, he said, well, maybe you might want to ask your sponsor brother if he would sponsor you.
Yeah.
He's got a couple years on me. And so I did. I reached out and shout out Jacob. I said, Jacob, I've been trying to do this, and I've been dealing with our sponsor who went out. I can't do this alone, man.
You cannot do it alone.
Would you sponsor me? And he's like, let's go. And we've been together ever since. And we have been working on this thing. And the cool part about it is like we met at a time where it's like I wasn't desperate, not as desperate as I was when I first came into the rooms. But now we get to share in the joy of each other sponsoring other guys together, right? So now he's my sponsor, but we talk about sponsoring others and get ideas from each other and support each other in that way as well. So
Wonderful.
it's more, I think it's a lot more whole, there's a lot more there that we get to use with each other, besides just a stoic sponsor-sponsee relationship.
Right. Well, and that's how they used to do it in the day. So I'm very familiar with Back to the Basics.
Right.
The Yellow Book. Now, Wally P., who wrote that book, he's also written Back to the Basics of Recovery. So it's kind of my jam now. But, there was no such thing as sponsors back in the day.
Right.
And actually, when it first originally started, a sponsor... Is that our first alarm?
Yeah.
Oh, that's our first alarm.
Wow.
Actually meant you would sponsor someone to go to treatment.
Gotcha.
Originally.
Right.
That's kind of where that term came from. I mean, obviously nobody can afford that now.
Right.
And also, it was never meant to be one person. They always sent out two people. 2 people to the hospitals, 2 people to your house, 2 people to the detox. So I like the idea of I know there's a new sponsorship workshop coming up. I've hosted sponsorship workshops and actually do a monthly sponsorship meeting.
Yeah.
Because it's important, especially if you're thinking about sponsoring, if you haven't sponsored in a long time, or if you are straight up sponsoring, it's great to have that circle of people with the same idea of
Right.
service and wanting to give back, but to be able to vibe off each other and feed off each other and learn from each other.
And sponsorship to me isn't just a sponsor-sponsee, right? You get the whole family.
Yes.
You know, and that's the cool part about it. And so the more guys that I sponsor, the more they get to become a part of a family, right?
Yes.
And so I always tell one of my sponsees who talks a lot about branching out and getting in touch with other guys in the program. I said, well, why don't you call your grand sponsor?
Yeah,
grand sponsor, right?
Yes, I remember when I first got called a grand sponsor.
Right.
I was like, wait, what?
Right.
She's like, well, your sponsee is my sponsor.
Yeah.
And so she said, you're my grand sponsor.
Isn't that fun?
Wow, that's
it makes
weird.
it into
That's
a
cool.
it puts it into a whole family tree that you can visualize,
Yes.
right? And then you realize you have much more support than you did when you first walked in those doors.
100%.
And that's the amazing part about sponsorship for me.
Yes, and my poor sponsor, I'm like, Marcy, you gotta be another grand sponsor. She's like, another one? Because I still go to her for guidance.
Mhm.
You know, if I get hung up on something and I'm feeling like I'm not guiding in the best direction, I get her feedback.
Exactly.
Or I reach out to other
Right.
brothers and sisters.
I will just say one more
Yes.
thing. It's a lot more Christmas presents when you start getting grand sponsees involved. So just FYI.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. If anything.
But we can afford it now, right? So we're good.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, this actually will be perfect to sync us here with the clip that I selected.
Perfect.
I changed it up on poor Bob here. I gave him a Will Smith clip, which I'll probably play next week maybe because it still would be serve a good benefit. But this one really ties it. It's not even about recovery. It's about leadership. Bob, my mind it's so in this obsession with knowledge and recovery that like I twist songs and podcasts and anything to mean where I'm at is that it's in the form of recovery in some one way or another.
Sure.
And so this one's actually about leadership. And it is a longer clip, so if you guys don't like this, I don't know, maybe this might be a good time to go get a snack.
I'll listen.
Fill your hot cocoa. So this one's called The Power of Love, one of the most motivational talks ever. And it's on YouTube, so if you do want to look it up, I'll give you the details after I play, but it is going to be a little bit longer. Actually, it's 5 minutes, so be prepared. Here we go. We're going to jump into it. And then, we got listeners. We are going to get in touch with the listeners. Bridge can't hear you well. See, there's something with my mic. I actually made a point to give you the mic, so I'm going to speak up more. And when I re-listen to this, I'm going to see what's going on. Because I'm changing the settings, and I'm also wondering if maybe it's this. So we might have to play this into your mic.
Yeah.
So I'm going to turn it on. Did I turn it on? I didn't turn it on.
Yeah, it's hard to hear you even in my ears.
Okay, because I have a feeling your mic might actually be picking up this mic over this. I think it's this piece right here, but
Bluetooth connected.
that's all right. We'll figure this out through the clip.
Sounds good.
Okay, so here we go.
Your wife. Yes. Right? Prove it. Like, what's the metric? Give me the number that helps me know, right? Because when you met her, you didn't love her, right? Now you love her, right? Tell me the day the love happened. It's an impossible question, right? But it's not that it doesn't exist. It's that it's much easier to prove over time, right? So, well, leadership is the same thing. It's about transitions. So if you were to go to the gym, right? It's like exercise, right? If you go to the gym and you work out and you come back and you look in the mirror, you will see nothing. And if you go to the gym the next day and you come back and you look in the mirror, you will see nothing, right? So clearly there's no results, cannot be measured, it must not be effective. So you quit, right? Or if you fundamentally believe that this is the right course of action and you stick with it, like in a relationship, I bought her flowers and I wished her happy birthday, and she doesn't love me. Clearly I'll give up. You know, that's not what happens. If you believe there's something there, you commit yourself to an act of service. You commit yourself to the regime, the exercise. You can screw it up. You can eat chocolate cake one day, and you can skip a day or two. You know, it allows for that. But if you stick with it consistently, I'm not exactly sure what day, but I know you'll start getting into shape. I know it. And the same with the relationship. It's not about the events. It's not about intensity. It's about consistency, right? You go to the dentist twice a year, your teeth will fall out. You have to brush your teeth every day for 2 minutes. What does brushing your teeth twice a day for 2 minutes do? Nothing. Unless you do it every day, twice a day for 2 minutes. Right? It's the consistency. Going to the gym for 9 hours does not get you into shape. Working out every day for 20 minutes gets you into shape. So the problem is we treat leadership with intensity. We have a 2-day offsite, we invite a bunch of speakers, we give everybody a certificate, you're a leader, right? Those things are like going to the dentist. They're very important, they're good for reminding us or getting us back on track, learning new lessons, but it's the daily practice of all the monotonous, little, boring things like brushing your teeth that matter the most. She didn't fall in love with you because you remembered her birthday and bought her flowers on Valentine's Day. She fell in love with you because when you woke up in the morning, you said good morning to her before you checked your phone. She fell in love with you because when you went to the fridge to get yourself a drink, you got her one without even asking. She fell in love with you because when you had an amazing day at work and she came home and she had a terrible day at work, you didn't say, yeah, but let me tell you about my day. You sat and listened to her awful day, and you didn't say a thing about your amazing day. This is why she fell in love with you. I can't tell you exactly what day, and it was no particular thing you did. It was the accumulation of all of those little things that she woke up one day and as if she pressed a button, she goes, I love him. Right? Leadership is exactly the same. There's no event. There's no thing I can tell you you have to do that your people will trust you. It just doesn't work that way. It's an accumulation of lots and lots of little things that anyone by themselves is innocuous and useless. Literally, pointless by themselves. People will look at little things that are good leadership practices and say, that won't work. And you're absolutely right. But if you do it consistently, and you do it in combination with lots of other little things, like saying good morning to someone, looking them in the eye. My friend George is a 3-star general in the Marine Corps. He says his test for leadership, and I love this, he goes, his test for a good leader is if you ask somebody how their day is going, you actually care about the answer. Right? The number of times we're walking to a meeting, we're rushing, we go, how are you? Not good, I got to get to you later, I'm late for a meeting. Right. If you ask the question, you were standing there and you were listening to the answer. It's those little innocuous things that you do over and over and over and over that people will say, I love my job. Not I like my job. I like my job means, yeah, the challenge is great, they pay me well, I like the people. I love my job means I don't want to work anywhere else. I don't care how much somebody else is willing to pay me. I'm devoted to the people here, and I care desperately about the people here as if they were my family. In business, we have colleagues and coworkers. In the military, they have brothers and sisters. That's how they think of each other, right? If you really have a strong corporate culture, the people will think of each other like brothers and sisters. It's like a family, right? No. Brothers and sisters. Deep love. Fight, but the love doesn't go away. Right? Bicker, the love doesn't go away. And I'll fight with my sister, but if you threaten my sister, you're going to have to deal with me. Right? We'll fight internally, we'll bicker with each other, but nobody's going to hurt each other, and if anything from the outside shows up, you're looking at a unified front. Brothers and sisters. Now, how do you create brothers and sisters out of strangers? Common beliefs, common values, parents, in other words, executives who care about their children's success, who care to raise their children, teach them skills, discipline them when necessary, help them build their self-confidence so that they can go on and achieve something more than you could have ever imagined achieving for yourself. That's leadership. An absolute love and devotion for the people who've committed their lives to this enterprise.
Okay, and so when he says business, I'm thinking of recovery or the program, and when he says job, I'm thinking of sponsoring. So just flip those in your head.
Sure.
But did you love that analogy of like brothers and sisters? And I'll let you talk, and then hopefully someone can give me feedback if they can hear me better. Otherwise, I'm going to switch the input over here. So what do you think of that clip, Bob?
So I really like that. For me, I searched a long time in my life for the answer, right? And I think a lot of people search for the answer. What is the one thing that I can do that will relieve me of whatever it might be, right? whatever I'm choosing to do. And when I first got into recovery, I I gained a lot of weight, you know, and it was one thing that I couldn't stand, you know. I struggled with that, and so I was working, and I had enough money to be able to join one of these weight loss programs, and what I went in there with, they said, what are some of your goals? And I said, well, I want to improve my mind, my body, and my spirit. And I said, for my mind, I go to therapy. For my body, I need your help.
Yeah.
And for my soul, I have recovery. Right?
Oh, I love that.
And so I needed help, right, on all of those fronts. There wasn't going to be one thing for me that was going to fix it all. And then what did I learn out of coming to recovery, out of going to therapy it was every week for a while, and then it was every 2 weeks, and then learning how to eat differently, so that I could provide my body with nutrition, and not the way that I was doing it before, which was had no idea what I was doing, honestly. It was just feed me whenever I felt angry, lonely, sad, depressed, whatever, And just like what that clip talked about is that consistency, right? Is the consistency of what I'm doing every day. One thing that helped me in recovery, one thing that was taught to me in recovery when I first came in, was this idea of a higher power for me. And it was something that I never really could grasp for a long time. But my sponsor said, if you do the act of prayer and meditation every day consistently, you will feel better. How is that possible, right? I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me at first. At first, right? So I would set an alarm in my phone, and I would sit down for 15 minutes, and I would feel weird. I mean, just absolutely so weird. I'm like,
this is a change.
Yeah, who am I talking to, and what am I listening for, right? Prayer and meditation. And so I would start to practice it, and I would get advice from others, right?
Sure.
How do you do it? What do you say? What do you listen for? Things like that. And once I tried it, I kept going, right? Now today, I don't know what I would do without that quiet time.
Yes.
Right? Consistency builds those positive habits, which builds a lot of foundation underneath it, where you then become to rely on it.
Yes.
You know?
Oh, absolutely. And I've been doing, I actually got the book, so I found this YouTube video Nathaniel Drew follows. He tries out a daily routine of the geniuses. And he does, like, Einstein, and he does Da Vinci, and he does Maya Angelou. And what's really great is one of the key things is they had a routine. Every day they did the same thing. And this past couple weeks I've been trying to get one going for myself. A couple things I've been making sure to do is get to bed earlier and get more sleep. But it's not something I can just do. I have so many people that I take care of along with myself, so like that it hasn't been, but I have been able to start setting priorities. And my sponsees are a priority. They're one of those bigger rocks in my life. And one of my favorite quotes, too, and then we're going to jump into the chat, see what's up with the listeners. Hi, listeners. Hopefully I sound better.
I turned up this one, so we should be good.
Okay, because maybe the sound is just coming from that one. Is that what you think it is?
I think so, yeah.
Gosh, that makes me so mad because, and I think I'll just test trial next time. So, okay. Well, I'm just going to speak louder, and hopefully it's not too loud, and they can turn their volumes down. But to make a real change, or to make a real difference, you don't have to be amazing. You don't have to do these, like, fantastical things. The only thing you have to be is what most people aren't: consistent.
Right.
And when I read that, it sunk in. It's like, actions speak louder than words. I'm not going to talk about, I'm all about the action. And if I say I'm going to be there, I'm there. If I say I'm going to do this, I just do it. I don't care if my car, like on the way here, is flashing, my engine light's flashing. Whatever, I don't care. I have a commitment to be here at 8 o'clock. I'm going to make sure that I'm here. Or at least do my due diligence to that point that I can. I mean, I'm human, so I've had to cancel. But, like, just that consistent piece. And just, yes, the daily, for me, meditation changes. but I make sure to try and do it every day. And of course, the checking in at night. For me, I know when I'm really struggling, and I just shared this, and not struggling like I'm going to go out and use, but just struggling in life. I didn't check in the other night, okay? And it's been months where I didn't check in.
Yeah.
And I woke up the next morning and I felt like crap. I had nightmares, which is, that's a red flag. And I was just in a bad place. And then it hit me after I took some quiet time that morning. I didn't check in the night before. I did not reflect on my day. I did not check in with my higher power and say, hey, what's up? Here's my day. Ooh, here's things I could have worked on. My brain had been so overused and my cup was so empty at that point that I didn't even check in. Because for me, checking in with my higher power is something I need to check in with myself.
Yeah.
And to see where my cup's at and make sure that I'm running on full. Because at that point, when that happened, I realized I was running on empty.
Right.
And I needed to step back.
Absolutely. In the first place, though, I mean, if you're wondering, well, how do I create a consistent practice or routine or anything like that, and the first thing you got to do is you just got to start,
right? Yes.
I mean, no matter how uncomfortable it is, again,
start small.
I sat there going, who am I talking to? What do I say? And what do I listen for?
Yeah.
Right? But it didn't matter. Right? I just started. And then I the next day I said, just start again. And the next day, just start again. Right? I tried so many times to get sober. And I failed so many times, right? I just would start again.
Yes.
Start again.
Don't
And then
give
I
up.
start, and then the next day, I started again. And the next day, I started again. And 3.5 years later of starting again every single day, building more and more routine in, more and more activities in, I'm able to now feel like I'm on a firm foundation.
Yes.
Right? And then you move that forward to, okay, now if I'm on a firm foundation, can you show somebody else how to do that?
Right. Right.
Bringing it back to that sponsorship thing, right? Like,
Yes.
how can we get others to see and do the same? Not the exact same. I'm not saying that it has to be the same. It's just
Right.
start their routine.
What works for you?
Right.
That is a path.
Right.
And they can, find their own, their own set path. But to at least have you as a guide on the path, pull them out of that ditch.
Right.
And get them started.
Yeah.
And
for so many people, they say it didn't work. Well, right, just like the clip that we heard tonight, it didn't work. Right, you go to the gym, you stand in front of the mirror, nothing changed.
Right.
You go the next day, nothing changed. Well, of course not. Right?
Time and patience.
And practice, right?
And practice towards and progress. Okay, so let's see. Listeners, let's see. Love the ABC and analogy. Yes, absolutely. I love that too. Especially
Good.
anything with songs.
Did you like my singing? I didn't hear if that was included in your comment.
Awesome. Love Grand Sponsor. Oh, Mark says, let's see, Mark. I also had a sponsor come to me with that. It was weird, but it helped me realize. Okay, I got to flash this so I can read it. But it helped me realize the power of alcoholism. He is still a good friend, and maybe one day I'll get to help him back.
That's the cool part about being in a program of recovery is that unfortunately, but fortunately, it's a revolving door.
It is.
Right? Unfortunately, because you don't know what's going to happen to that person when they're on their way out. But hopefully they're going to come back in, right?
Right.
And we can still be helpful. So
I still check in on them.
Right.
There's some that I haven't heard back. Actually, one just reached out. I hadn't heard back from her in over 7 months.
Right.
And she just messaged me finally back. And she was like, it was just great because then I know that she still thought about me. She, I always give them the option, like, you can block my ass.
Right.
You can tell me to stop sending these meetings, whatever info. But just randomly, I like to just send them something.
Yeah.
It's not like, I don't want them to feel pressure like I'm stalking them or bugging them. But I just, actually this weekend, had another girl that I work with say, I'm so thankful that you still send me the meeting whatever info because she's popped in on them now and she's back on track. Okay, that's our hot seat alarm. You ready for this?
Okay, hot seat. Okay.
So you're gonna get 3 hot and heavy questions.
Ooh.
Okay, and they're meant to be they're meant to be more heavy and deeper.
Okay.
And just don't feel too much pressure. They're just really, I'm going to play the fire sound, even though it's really warm in this room. Are you feeling the heat?
I can feel the heat. Wow.
And I want the listeners to feel it as well. So that is why we're going to go ahead.
All right, feel
It's a
this. Are you ready
free
to feel
app.
it?
Yeah. So sometimes
It
it
might burn you.
cooperates. Here we go. Hopefully it's still connected. You hear it?
Oh, it sounds like a fire. That's
It's the
hot.
hot seat, Bob. You ready?
That's hot. All right.
Okay, we're going to keep it playing.
I feel like Nicole, no,
And
Paris.
let me know if it's too distracting, but I like it. It's more intensity. Ooh.
Sounds like there's fire behind us, like we're at the cabin.
Yes.
And it's a cold winter night.
Or the building's about to burn down. You better hurry up and answer these questions. No, I'm just
That too.
totally kidding. Okay, you ready?
Okay.
Okay. Question number 1. I write them on my little
I'm ready.
little paper notebook here. Number 1. What was the worst advice you've ever received?
The worst advice I'd ever received. Wow. You know what's strange? I can really take a lot from what people have to say, but I take it in my own way. So
Right.
it's hard to, it's kind of like when someone asks you, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? I'm like, well, my weaknesses are just opportunities.
Oh,
right?
I love that, yes.
So I have strengths and I have opportunities, because weakness makes me feel weak. It makes me feel bad. So to me, I try to find the good in everything that people tell me. And if it's garbage, in all honesty, I don't even remember it, because it's garbage. That's where I put it.
Yes.
I put it in the garbage. So the worst advice, that I can't even find one, because I
Anything
don't.
like from your childhood, you would say, or
don't-
maybe your
Yes.
early days of...
Okay, everybody, here we go. Ready?
Oh, here we go. Here's the good stuff.
You don't have to clean your plate to be in the clean plate club. You don't have to do it, right?
Okay.
Being in the clean plate club forced me as an adult to say, if I eat all of this food that I ordered, I get dessert. Not good for my waistline. So
Yes.
still 65 pounds down, but it cost a lot of money and took a lot of work.
Oh my gosh. I grew up in the same household, and actually I wasn't allowed to leave the table
Right.
unless I cleaned my
Clean the plate club.
And it messed up my mind.
Yeah.
And still to this day,
Yeah.
like now I've gotten better where I just portion control.
Right.
Like even though I'm really hungry and I really want all these foods.
Yep.
Before, it's like it like brainwashed me where I wouldn't want to waste food.
Yes.
Didn't want to be ungrateful, but I'd way overeat.
Yep.
And now I just make sure I can go back for seconds. But I still always clean my plate, and I hate it.
And it's still ingrained in my mother, I will tell you. She just today said, oh, I bought a box of donuts. And I said, Mom, why did you buy a box of donuts? You're trying to eat healthier and be healthy. Well, I wanted something sweet. I said, did you need to buy the box? She said, yeah. And I said, well, why don't you have the one and just throw the rest away? She's like, because I don't waste food like that. Right. It all comes from that same place, right?
Yeah.
Clean Your Plate Club. There's starving kids in China
Yes.
and all of that stuff. Just stop. You don't have to eat it all, I promise
Oh
you.
my goodness. So that's such great advice.
There we go.
Thanks for the great advice, Bob. I just said that to my teenager the other day.
Okay, walk that back.
I'll just say, next time, don't say you want the extra large fries.
Right.
Because that is a waste of my money. And I said, there's kids starving across the ocean.
Right.
Hayden.
Okay. Calling him out.
I did. But he doesn't listen anymore.
Oh, well,
so
see?
maybe I'm going to tell him I mentioned your name. Means you're supposed to be listening.
Listen to your mother. Even when she changes her mind, you still got to listen.
It's for a reason,
It's for
right?
a reason.
For the madness. Okay, question number 2. What's been the most difficult relationship to mend?
The most difficult relationship to mend. Honestly, growing up, I really listened to the bullies. I listened to the naysayers and the haters out there, and I have their voices in my head, right? And so for me, the toughest relationship that's been to mend has been with myself.
my gosh, yes.
I took those comments from bullies. I took the comments from teachers, from bus drivers. I'll tell you a story offline about a bus driver and what he said to me. But I took, I was a chubby kid growing up, never going to amount to anything. I was a band geek and a choir nerd. I did play football, but, but I was told that I wouldn't go anywhere in life, and I took all of that to heart. And so what did I do? I cleaned my plate because I thought that might be the only club that I would be accepted in. And turns out it wasn't even a real club anyway. So for me, I had to get through all of that negative self-talk. I had to repair my relationship with myself. I had to, and I will tell you, the power of affirmations is amazing. I found so many different YouTube videos about affirmations. Is it SoundCloud, where you can subscribe and download? There's so many apps out there that you can find for affirmations. And then I would say them in my drive to work. It took me half an hour to go to work. I would say those for half an hour on the way to work to try to repair that negative self-talk. And doing recovery is a great environment to foster that as well.
Yes.
But for me, it was myself. I had to get through to myself and say, you can be your worst enemy or your biggest cheerleader. Which one do you want to be?
Yes.
Right? And today I'm my biggest cheerleader.
Yeah.
And it's much better than having myself in the corner that just doesn't support me, right? I had to kick that guy out to the curb and bring in a new guy that says, hey, I'm here for you. I got you. I got your back.
Oh my gosh, I just connected with everything that you said. Right? 100%. All kinds of things just popped in my head. Let me pick one. Well, first thing on the affirmations thing. So I went through a few treatments, and they were always harping about that. And I'm like, this is BS. Because I hated myself. I'm not going to lie to I'm not going to say this shit to myself. I don't believe it. But what I found did work for me is finding one. Well, I started with one. And then finding a few affirmations that I really, truly believed. And they don't, because oh, you're enough thing. Get out of here with that. I mean, I needed to find one. And I mean, it would take me a minute to really find one. Now I don't really use them.
Right.
Except when I call it the inner mean girl pops up. Okay? She is my own worst enemy.
Oh, she's a bitch.
She is such a bitch. Gosh. And I know she always pops up. It always stems from fear.
Yeah.
That's where it always comes from. And 100%, the mending for myself, that only finally happened when I finally forgave myself.
Right.
Okay? Because I kept punishing myself over and over again because I couldn't forgive myself. I didn't believe that I deserved forgiveness. I'm going to really quickly share how that happened. It was magical.
Okay.
It wasn't magical. Now I see it as magical. In the moment, it was like eye-opening. A counselor had us write a letter. And basically it was like getting inner mean girl out on the letter. Say all these things that you need to say to yourself that you really believe about yourself. So, of course, I was in treatment, and I was like, punishing myself. I was like, you deserve what you got.
Right.
You deserve to lose your children. You deserve to be miserable. You deserved all those horrible things that happened to you through these experiences, all kinds of horrible things. That's what you get. That was that inner mean girl.
And you will suffer every day because of it, right?
You get
deserve
everything
it.
you fucking deserve.
Yep.
And it's awful because, that's a totally different person than I am now. What changed it was, she read my letter to first. And she tried to get me to read. I'm like, I don't need to read. I just wrote it. I know what I said to myself, and I meant it. And she goes, now, Bridge, do you have family? Do you have friends? Well, at that time, all I thought, I didn't have friends. I didn't have many. The only thing that mattered to me was my babies. She said, oh, so you have a daughter. Okay. Well, let's say your daughter, how old is she? Okay, well, let's say she's 16, Bridge. Picture her at 16, and she's in treatment. And she's going through what you're going through. She's starting along those lines. Would you read this letter to her? What if you knew she was saying these things to herself? What would you say, Bridge? I said, oh my God. I would say, Juliet, don't talk to yourself like that. Honey, I love you. I'm here for you. I will do anything for you. It's okay.
Right.
Those things that you did, all these loving things, right?
Right.
And she caught me. I wasn't thinking she was going to twist this on. She goes, Bridge, then why are you saying those things to yourself?
Absolutely.
What you just said to me that you said to your daughter, you need to say to yourself, and boom, mind blown.
Isn't
like
it crazy?
It was amazing.
Yeah.
That really made it click for me.
And then what happened the next day? You went right back to being in fear and saying those things to yourself.
Yes,
didn't
but I
you?
caught myself.
But you caught it. You had that glimmer of hope, right?
Yes.
That there is a better way for you out there than just suffering from this constant self-hatred.
Right.
And for me, I felt the same exact way. I went through the same thing. I had to say those every day for a while, right? It took me, like the clip talked about, that consistency. I had to do it for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks until finally I started to believe it. It took that long for me to break through my own fear, break through that selfishness and say, no, I am worthy of love. I am worthy of recovery. I am worthy of good things in this world.
Yes.
It took a while, though.
It took years for me.
Yeah,
It was healing. It was a process of healing.
Yeah. It can take a while, but you know what? Keep at it, right?
Yes.
Keep at it.
Oh, absolutely. Like prime examples right
Yeah.
here, sitting right here, talking to you right now, that keep doing it. Because even though it feels uncomfortable, even though it might not feel authentic in the beginning, write that letter to yourself.
Yeah.
And then then rethink about, would you say that to someone that you love and care about?
Right.
No. So stop saying it to yourself.
Yeah.
And I say this like it's easy, but yeah, I think my first affirmation was something like, you deserve a second chance. And something like,
That's a good one.
you need to love yourself. You gotta love yourself. How can your kids, how can you think, your kids see you, right? I knew I wanted to be happy so my kids could see that I was happy.
Right.
And so that they could be happy. Okay, question number 3.
Okay.
We could keep going on.
I know.
What was the biggest opportunity you have ever given up?
What is the biggest opportunity I have ever given up? The biggest opportunity I was ever given up is, it's more materialistic, I guess. About 15 years ago, my partner and I at the time were offered to come move out to Pennsylvania and to take over his mother's business.
Okay.
And to buy the house, and it was a 10-bedroom house with a pool and a hot tub and overlooking the Monongahela River.
Holy smokes.
Shout out to Pittsburgh, and south of Pittsburgh, and it came with its own business doing domicile home care, where all I had to do was take care of these ladies who lived with me, and I could. And the state would pay me money to take care of them, which paid the house, and my job was to go to the grocery store, mow the lawn, take care of these ladies.
Sure.
So I gave up everything in Minnesota, and my partner and I moved out there. And after some unforeseen circumstances that we didn't know were going to happen, we ended up having to move home. It didn't work out for us.
Okay.
And so I might not be sitting here. Who knows what would have happened, right? I might not have been, but that was a big opportunity, and ultimately, it changed my life in many ways. And ultimately, my partner and I, at the time, we were no longer together, and God had different plans for me. And so for me, that was a huge opportunity. I don't know how that would have shaken out. I don't know what my life would have looked like, but I will tell you, I'm a Minnesota homegrown boy.
Yeah.
I love it here.
I'm so glad you're here. I never would have met you.
Exactly.
know?
So God works in mysterious ways, really, and the universe had different plans, and so that was something that I had my heart set on, and we went out there.
Yeah.
We were out there for 2 months.
Yeah.
And it didn't work, and we had to move home, and we had to start all over again. Wow. And shout out to Tony, who I know is still in recovery. I'm proud of you, and we're good friends to this day. But it's just one of those things where life doesn't always work out, even as you have it planned.
Yeah.
My current partner, I'm not a floozy, but my current partner of a couple years now. We're looking forward to buying a house in the next couple of months. So the universe will bounce back and will redirect and will put you in places that you never saw coming.
Yeah.
So, and I think that for me, the universe needed me to go through the horrors of addiction that I went through in order to come out and be a better person on the other side.
Absolutely.
You know? And
I
so to me,
100% agree.
that missed opportunity created many other opportunities. So there's more out there.
Yes. Okay, let's keep checking the chat. That was the second alarm. So we're gonna be doing. What time are we at? Oh my goodness! It's already 8:55.
Oh wow! Okay.
That's cool. That's
All right.
okay. So that means the Facebook memes segment is coming up.
Oh, here we go.
And let me just check out my chat. So, I really need to start wearing my glasses. Note to self: when you re-listen to this, bring your glasses. Okay. Mark says, self was most difficult. Once I got that, the others became possible. Yes.
Yeah.
You know, there's a certain step when you're on this path and you're going along your journey that says when to do so would injure that person or others. And I like to always say others includes yourself.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that until someone said, because I was trying to do all these things to make up for things, and a few people I had on my list
Power off.
were my abusers. That's how thoroughly I was, and that's how much I was overthinking that program. And it was finally my sponsor that said, Bridge, you do not need to mend things with people that abused you.
Yeah.
Especially to the degree that they did.
Yeah.
And so there's other ways of making amends. And it worked on, I needed to let that go for myself.
Right.
In my own safe way. And it didn't injure me. A chronic reuser, one of those big key pieces was I thought I needed to make apologies to these people, because I did mess up things, but they were the big key factor to that. And so it was, see, that's why it's nice to have a guide or a sponsor that opened my eyes, because I tried to do this thing by myself a long time. And that's where the sponsor or the guide is so beneficial.
Quick similar experience
Yes.
for me. I also went through a very traumatic episode in my life that included other people who were perpetrators, right? And in recovery, we wonder how, because I have a resentment against them, right? And they say resentment is poison for us, right?
Yes, number one offender.
Number one offender. And so I have to deal with my resentments. How do you deal with a resentment towards an abuser? Somebody who knew what they were doing and they inflicted pain upon you, right? In a very violent way, we'll call it. And for me, my sponsor let me do that part of that fifth step with a therapist, right?
Yes.
And so I was in a much safer space to be able to do that. And it wasn't so much that I had to make amends. I didn't have to do that. What I had to deal with was the resentment that I was harboring.
Right.
And I needed somebody there who could say to me that it wasn't my fault.
Yes.
In many different ways, in different languages. I needed it in French, Spanish, Danish, Dutch, German. I needed it in all these different things because I didn't get it in English at first because I didn't feel that,
Right.
And so I understand that, right? Making amends. I needed to make amends to myself to say, it wasn't my fault
Right.
that happened. It's okay to let your guard down and love yourself again.
Yes.
It's okay to do that. That was the amends that I got to make with myself. So if you have a hard time making amends with somebody out there who may have abused you or something like that, just know that you can make amends with yourself and forgive yourself for that.
And that's
move
all you
forward.
need to
and
do.
that's all you need to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. And then last thing I got in the chat, Mom says, I think the two of you have been so inspiring tonight. Love the show. Just what I needed to fill my cup. Aw, thanks,
Aw.
Mahana.
Wonderful.
Okay, let's jump into the live Facebook memes.
All right.
And actually, I'm excited because one of them, I think, is an aha one that goes along with what you just said.
Okay.
Your
Here come
genius.
here come the memes, everybody.
Geniusness. Here we go. So what happens if you're new to the show, listening to the show, is I'm going to flash mob here some Facebook memes that,
just
for
the
whatever
memes,
reason,
please. Just the memes. Yeah.
yeah, for whatever reason, that's all I'm going to be flashing. Trust me. Yeah, that's for both of our benefits. And for whatever reason, they stood out to me. I know that this week, I think I've just been trying to be happy and joyous and just laugh. I've been doing some training. It's a great training. Oh, I didn't even talk about the five key paths, which we've been talking about since this whole show, but they are just to really keep. I like breaking things down to the most basics. is hope, choice, empowerment, recovery environment, and spirituality. And what I feel like sponsors help with is they help you build that recovery environment, okay? They give you that safe place where recovery is welcomed and supported and very much a family. And also empowerment. And then you, along the lines, I mean, coming from the darkest place that I was at, it gave me hope. And it gave me the ability to have a choice. Because when I was in the courts and I was doing all the shit that, oh my gosh, that was a circus. At least my sponsor gave me gave me choices, you know? Because sometimes I could do the reading, or sometimes I could do the check-in, but alcohol and drugs was but a symptom. I had a whole lot of other co-occurring things going on. I needed, what she gave me was just the fact that I knew she would always be there and she would go with me. I couldn't deal with the hard as nails thing. Like, I like that. That's a weird thing. Like, I like getting directions. Like, for me, school is where I am a nerd. Give me a reading, sign me. I'm going to do it great. But not when I was in addiction.
No.
Like, my brain was not processing the way it was meant to be.
Well, I mean, for me, I was an addict. If you told me to go left, I went right with an attitude.
Oh, 100%.
You know,
Times 10.
You couldn't stop me either.
Yes, yeah.
Even if you were joking, I was still out the door. Gone. Yep, prove you wrong. You
Yes.
know.
Oh my gosh, 100%. I'm still a little bit like that.
A little bit.
But I'm aware of it.
Right.
And I catch myself. And sometimes I have to have an inner voice conversation like, Bridge, this is why this person, they meant this. It doesn't mean you need to go do this.
Right.
Like, so just calm down.
And I think for all of your points that you mentioned on were kind of the theme for tonight's show, you know, I think in so many ways we've touched on those, which is really cool, right? That we could work all of those into our discussion tonight. So
yeah,
it's really cool.
Absolutely.
I like this.
And the more we talk about it, the more people will know about it, anything that we've touched on, and know that they have a safe place to come to and talk to. And just finding that one person, at least to start with, that you make that connection with. Yeah. And I always tell my sponsees, test other people's. Oh, we'll get on that later. That's probably my daughter.
Okay.
I always say test out sponsors, because if you're not feeling it, like I tell them, you're not going to hurt my feelings. I definitely say, just, you know, be honest with yourself, because if it's not working and it's pushing you the opposite direction, you know, find another one. Don't sit with that and go back out and then blame that person or yourself. Okay, so here we go. You ready?
All right, let's do the memes.
You're familiar with memes, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And so, like Facebook, if you can, live for our listeners, I'm going to have you describe. A lot of them are just words, so that's nice. We're going to start with a funny one, though. I'm going to fly to these. Okay.
You're already laughing. Okay.
I'm smiling because I love Ron
So
Burgundy.
who is that guy?
That's Will Ferrell, but he plays the news anchor. Ron Burgundy.
Ron Burgundy. Okay, Ron Burgundy.
What does Ron Burgundy tell us, Bob?
He says, you lost your phone and it's on silent? Too bad. If you liked it, you should have put a ring on it.
And who's that make you think of? Beyonce.
Exactly. So now I'm thinking about both Ron Burgundy and Beyonce in the same
his
thought.
voice?
That's a little creepy. All right.
So what would you say? Thumbs up or?
Oh, absolutely thumbs up.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, I saw that one earlier this week,
Did
and
you?
I had a chuckle to myself.
Okay,
yeah,
so maybe
giggled.
we're probably doing the same thing. So I do this late at night when I'm in bed.
Everybody
is my jam.
does, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Just going through the best views. Okay.
What you got the next one?
Are you familiar with SpongeBob?
Yeah, so we've got SpongeBob, but I forget who that is. See,
He's one of the side characters, and he always drinks soda. He's just a fish.
So, folks, just real quick before I read this, if you suffer from memory loss and you can't remember all the cartoons from your childhood, it's okay. Drugs erased most of that for me. The database is gone. They look familiar, just can't tell you the names. So that's what I've lost.
It's okay.
All right, so this one's from SpongeBob. It says, when you already checked your usual 5 apps and don't know what else to do with your day, and he's just sitting there holding his pop. Right? He just doesn't know what to do.
Isn't that true, though?
That is so true.
That's how I started to see I had a phone addiction.
I'm telling you.
I was getting no happiness from my apps anymore.
No happiness, so you're just sitting there. Little grumps on your face.
Now what?
Now what? What do I do?
I actually have to do something in life?
Like, I don't know.
Reality?
Go help somebody.
Yeah. Okay, this one's really modern. I mean, really present.
Okay, so Dave Chappelle. But it's old Dave Chappelle when he was like skinny. But he doesn't have any white stuff on his nose, which is good. So we're glad about that. So it says they should replace the kids' desks at school with restaurant tables. That way, when they sit down, they can take off their masks. Oh my gosh.
Do you get it?
Get it?
Because
Yes.
the schools are still making them wear the mask.
Yes.
But we go to restaurants or Walmart, we're not, mask free. They're encouraged.
I don't know how to eat with a mask on.
Yes.
I mean.
And they want them to participate in class.
Right.
And like, oh my gosh. So let's make it restaurant style. Let the children take off the mask so they can breathe.
My mother, she bought a mask and it has a little flap on it. And
Are
there's
you
a
serious?
hole so that she can put a straw into it.
Oh my gosh. I saw a guy wear 2 of them.
2 masks.
Like that, like
Yep.
a duck flap thingy. So, people get creative. You gotta go with it. Okay, let's do a more serious one. You ready?
Okay, serious. Here we go. Why are memes
I was gonna
serious?
mess with you and play a funny one that you might think is serious, but I'm gonna try to do this is one. Okay. Oh, this is a good one.
All right. Your friends brag about you. Say your name in rooms of opportunity. Hold you accountable with softness and love. Celebrate your wins as their wins. Have more compliments for you than shade. Encourage new experiences and growth. This is the basic criteria. Assess your circle.
Assess your circle.
Yeah, seriously. If you're not helping, you're hurting. And I find that to be true. It's strange how in recovery we come together and we
say we're this family.
right, but we find different personalities here, and sometimes my old personality, the old drinking and drugging Bob, would have loved to hang out with those people, and now I can't stand them.
Yes, the chaos.
The chaos. And so for me, sometimes I have to take a step back and I have to protect what's good for me. And I like to surround people who are not enablers, although I love to surround myself with enablers, but I need to be very careful with that. I love to surround myself with people who are supportive, right? In the way that I want to be supported. I want to be supported in, I love cheerleaders, right?
Yeah.
I say, ta-da, look at this moment. And they say, good job, right? And I try to be that way.
Right.
But I like that in my life.
Yes.
Now, if somebody's seeing me doing something that I probably shouldn't be doing, they go, what do you think about that? Do you think that's a little concerning? Yes, Mom. No, yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
Surrounding yourself with people who are supportive but also don't let you go off the deep end is important. Right. And for me, it's taken time to find that group of people. I still don't think you're out there. So if you're out there, hey.
Hey. Well, and just in my training, we were reading these quotes, and one of them was like, just remember who is in front of you talking shit about other people is going to be talking shit about you.
Yeah. Right.
And so that's what I realize is like, for me, like, I'll stay in the conversation for a minute because I don't want to be up and rude and walk away and be like, I'm to see what you're doing here.
Sure.
But also, I make a point to not respond. And I see that they're looking for, like, some feedback or, did you hear this or did you hear that? And I'm like, oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Oh, I might have heard something. But I do not feed into that toxic conversation.
Do you know what I love to say in those conversations?
What?
I will pray for that person. Because then it makes them think, like, what did I just say?
Yeah.
And then,
that's great. Yes.
And it makes people think, I'll pray for that person. Especially on the basis of spirituality, right? I'm always praying for people, and praying for people doesn't have to be oh God, this person's dying, please let them live. No, it's praying for people is
mean well.
Right. And God, it'd be great if your will be done in their lives like you're doing in mine. They're a sick person. Help all of your sick people.
Treat them as you would a sick friend.
Right.
Yes. Okay. I gotta tell you though, there's just there's a whole bunch of funny ones, so I'm just gonna throw them at you. Sorry.
Okay.
Here's words.
We're doing lots of memes, folks. So here, me. Sorry I'm late. I broke down on the way to work. Boss, is your car working fine now? Me. Car?
Question mark.
Yeah. No, I broke down on the way to work, Bridge. I broke down. That's why I'm late.
And that's like two versus one stone for me these
Right?
days.
Isn't that great?
Here's another one.
Well, here's another one from Paper Quotes. I post stuff on purpose because I know somebody is minding my business.
Sometimes people like to mind my business.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
It's just like if you're one of those people who doesn't care about what you share on Facebook.
Yeah.
You know, and then there's people out there who are like, oh my goodness, you know, have a little respect. You're like, this is supposed to be funny.
Yes.
Yeah, you know.
It is not about
It's
you.
not about you.
You know, I used to get like that, like, oh, I better not post this because I know this just happened to this person. They might take it personally. I'm like, fuck that. If
Right.
they're like taking my stupid stuff personally, that's within them.
How many followers do we have? How many friends do we have?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're
And
going to
if you-
censor for one person, you probably
That's
are on the
a
wrong
problem.
place.
Yes. Okay, here, describe the picture. It's key.
Okay, so there's a gal who is looking at a thermometer. She does have her finger on the button. I'm a little concerned. I haven't read this one. So the police say, do you have any recent pictures of the missing that we can use? And Dad says, here, this is the latest photo I took of her. For all of you, don't touch the thermostat out there.
The dark humor.
That is really bad.
At first I was like, what the? And then I get it. Like,
Right.
it's hilarious. And I'm like that as a mom. I'm like, stop touching the...
I'm telling you.
You don't pay the heat bill.
The gas bill came last week. Oh my gosh. So
Yes.
turn it down, folks.
Yes.
Put on some socks and a sweatshirt.
What's that comedy with Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg, and they're the dads? And there was the second one, Daddy's Home, right? And then there's Daddy's Home too, I think it is.
Yeah.
And it was all about that.
All about the
And there's
thermostat.
just a scene where the daughter's going out to mess with the heat and it's roasting. And at first I was like, that's so over traumatized, but lately I get it.
Right.
When I
Yeah.
had to pay a $500 electric bill, I'm like,
telling ya.
crazy.
Turn it off, turn it down, put some socks on.
Okay. I just Kermit. It might be a little inappropriate, Bob, but just call me out.
Okay, so Kermit is lying back on the bed, arms spread out wide. And the quote says, "What's your sexual fantasy?" And me said, "Someone throwing $1 million on my naked body and then leaving me the fuck alone."
That is so me
That
right
is
now.
so funny. Just give me money and get out, right?
And I'm just for fun. I'm playing with Tinder just a little bit, just for the month.
There
I
you
paid
go.
the little thing. I'm just messing with it. But I get these weird questions like, "Ooh, what are you wearing?" Who cares what I'm wearing? I used to send. Will you send me more pictures? The pictures I got posted is all you get. You know, I'm shutting them down real quick. I'm not even responding or blocking them really quick. And then the last one that made me think of like, what's your sexual fantasy right now? Give me some money
Right now.
and leave me the fuck alone.
Yep.
That's my real sexual fantasy. That makes things
it.
happen with that.
Or if you've
for
got
myself.
if you've got a good dessert out there that doesn't make me, have to cook anything. that
Oh,
would be great.
chocolate hits the spot.
I can have
for
a
me.
Postmates pick that up real fast.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, send me that. Yeah, send me that one. This one's just cute. It's a knock on us.
Okay, so
laugh at
there's
ourselves.
a toilet and it's got the lid up, and on the lid it says, "Please close the lid. The dog has a drinking problem."
Isn't that cute?
If only we could have closed the lid sooner on ourselves and our drinking careers, right?
You're right. Well, I think it helped me get to where I needed to be.
Right.
Okay, so we're gonna do one more. The one I really wanted to point out that was relevant to what we were talking about with mending with people
Sure.
that may have been abusers.
Yes.
So this is just words.
All right, so these are just words. You don't have to forgive the person who harmed you. Telling victims to forgive is a boundary violation. There is a popular myth that says forgiveness is required for healing. It isn't. And whether you forgive or not is nobody's business but your own. Absolutely.
Right.
Right.
And resentment, the word resent, actually, if you break it down, means to re-feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you think about it, there's two core emotions, love and fear. I say this all the time. Because I think I just need to say it out loud to believe it. Because if you're feeling joyous and happy and all that stemmed from love. If you're feeling scared about something, if you're feeling angry about something, if you're feeling depressed about something, if you're feeling awkward about something, it's coming from fear.
Yeah.
And how to figure that out it can be hard. It's something that I need to process too, especially when it's anger.
Yeah.
I'm like, really, what am I scared of? Or if I'm sad, I'm like, really, what am I scared of? And it takes, that's, for me, it's a challenge. And that gives me an opportunity to up my level of life.
Yeah.
It gives me an opportunity to heal myself more and really figure out, why am I so angry about this? Or why am I so upset or sad by this?
Yeah. And I'll say one thing is that, if you're dealing with trauma, I would just say that there's so many resources out there, right? that are there to help, whether it's a support group or a therapist or an anonymous helpline that you call. There's no shame in calling or asking for help. And there's so many resources out there. And from a survivor of, sexual assault myself, I can say that had I not gotten myself some help, I don't know where I would be or if I would be alive today.
Right.
And you deserve life.
Yes.
You are worthy to be here on this planet. You are worthy to be alive. And you are worthy of love that people have to give you. People love you. So if something's happened.
we love you.
Yeah, please talk to
Reach
somebody.
out to any one of us.
Yep.
Walk into any one of those rooms. It sounds cold-hearted, but like that saying, closed mouths don't get fed.
Yeah.
So just whatever you need to do to just at least speak up a little bit. Talk to someone. Reach out to someone that can really start you on your way.
Yeah.
And Dr. Gabor Mate, so you haven't listened to any of the shows. I'm
No.
a huge fan of Dr. Gabor Mate, and he says all addiction, any forms of addiction, it can be food, gambling, sex, alcohol, drugs, forms from some kind of childhood trauma.
Absolutely.
And you might not even, like Holly was on, and she was like, there's big T's and little T's. And you might think, well, I had a great childhood, though. I had wonderful, loving parents. I didn't have any trauma. But then she said, initially, that's what she thought, too. But then she realized, like, down the line, she had bullying that really affected her development. So those little T's. But all forms of addiction, whatever it is, Dr. Gabor Mate says it stems from some type of trauma.
We're trying to cope with something that is uncomfortable.
Right.
Whatever that might be.
Here's the good one.
All right. And lastly, we'll say this last meme says sometimes you need a stop doing list as badly as you need a to-do list.
Yeah.
I agree with that so much.
That's where I'm
I
at.
agree with that so much.
I'm working on the stop doing list.
Stop doing.
Because I'm all about the to-do lists.
Yep.
And then I beat myself up when I don't hit all those check
Absolutely.
boxes.
It is okay to rest.
Yes.
Right? It is okay to rest. Give yourself permission.
Wonderful. Oh, Bob, it's been such a pleasure.
Yeah, this has been so much fun.
Thank you for coming. I'm so sorry. It's so freaking hot in here. I'm like, I already got too many layers on. I need to declose.
She's almost flashing.
I'm
me
not
for-
flashing,
No,
no.
okay.
And thank you to the listeners. I'm so glad that we didn't have any technical issues technically. But now that I've tested out the mic situation and turning up the mic, Mahana did say that it seemed to
A little better.
a little better.
Okay, good.
And then I'm still gonna. It's a process.
Yeah,
You
we'll
know,
figure it out,
This
right?
is no fancy. There's no monies involved. This is
No.
just I do it because it's service and I want to give back.
Oh,
and,
these are nice microphones. I like them.
Right, they were a good investment.
There you go.
COVID.
Thanks, COVID.
COVID is the reason this podcast exists.
There we go.
It was that immediate 14-day BS.
Yep.
I was going nuts. And so I was like, you know what? I want to do a podcast. I can't find a woman, whatever, host podcast. I'm just going about recovery.
Yep.
I'm just going ahead and do one.
There you go.
And here we are.
There you go.
All right. Well, I hope everybody has been having a great weekend. If you're lucky enough, tomorrow's Martin Luther King Day.
Yay, no work.
So you might be having an extended day. I'm still in training. I still go right into I have no day off tomorrow, but I will still recognize the holiday, Remembrance Day. But I hope everybody's been having a great weekend, continues to have a great extended weekend if you do have one, but also have a great week.
Yes, and celebrate Betty White's what would have been her 100th birthday.
Yes,
That's
we
tomorrow.
talked about it. You missed the quote from last week. I'm going to share it with you.
Oh, happy birthday, Betty.
Betty said, why do people say grow balls? Grow some balls?
Yeah.
She's like, balls are weak and sensitive. You should say, go get a vagina because those things are strong. They take a pounding.
Oh my.
Betty White.
That's Betty. You
Don't
know
you
what?
love her? Oh
I am
my
going to go
gosh.
watch some Hot in Cleveland right now. Good night, everybody.
Oh, Betty. All right, guys, have a great night, and we are going to end the broadcast. What time is it?
Bye.
9:19. That's not too bad.
There we go. Bye,
Oh.
everybody.